Hello, Karen Sullivan here, Soul Symbols, Astrology and Tarot. And I'm here to give you a forecast and a look into the chart of the full moon in Aquarius. So what we can see here is our full moon in Aquarius, co-present with Pluto, the great transformer. And it is the fullness of what we seeded 2 weeks ago in Leo. Okay, so it's a bit like a pregnancy. When we become pregnant, no one can see it. The woman can feel it, can feel the gradual changes in her body, but it's not visible to the outside world. So that seeding is very inward, it's very quiet, but it's going on nevertheless. Sometimes in our subconscious, we're not consciously aware of what we're seeding. But by full term pregnancy, the world can see. It's a fruition of that seeding. So you can look at the full moon in that respect. So this is an absolute doozy. Again, the same as the new moon in Leo. We talked about Barbeau and that formation, S.J. Anderson's basket formation. And we had a look at the symbolism of that seeding at that time. So now we have a different aspect in the sky. You can see here this beautiful kite formation in the blue. It's made up of sextiles, a sextile of Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto there, where our full moon is, and it's made up of a Grand Trine. So that is Uranus, Mars in Libra, and Pluto again. And then we have this opposition of Mars to Saturn. But obviously, with that conjunction there, we have the archetypal meanings of Neptune within that Saturn opposition, Saturn-Mars opposition. So these red lines are the opposition. We've got the Sun and Moon opposite. We've obviously got the nodes of the Moon opposite there. And we have the Saturn-Mars opposition. So there's an awful lot on in our sky. There is also a separating opposition of Mercury, which is about to station direct. Okay, it's been retrograde there in Leo, and it's about to go direct again. So Mercury's very slow moving, and it's having an impact on this Pluto and thus our full moon. So I have a confession to make. I have attempted to do this video yesterday, the day before, and there is so much information, so much going on in our sky that it was confusing. There was so much to kind of condense. I'm Jupiterian. Jupiter rules my chart, so I have this urge, this push to you know condense all that information into one overview. Well, I can't. I ended up very confused. It was very chaotic. And I think that is the energy that we're all experiencing individually and collective, because there is so much going on in the sky and there's so much going on in the world. We've got information, this air trine is about it's air, it's information, it's messages, it's, what we're hearing, what we're seeing, what we're experiencing. So too much. You'd have to drop a comment in the box below, but I think it's really too much. So what I've done, I've got that kind of overview in my head, but I'd have to do hours and hours of video to include it all, and I'm not sure I can condense it. I'm not sure it's meant to be condensed. It's a big change. I talked in my Uranus video, Uranus into Gemini. We are facing, as a collective, huge world global shift in paradigms, and that is going to filter down into our life. We're like the microcosm of the world, we're one person in a billions of people, and we're all contributing to our external reality. So yeah, there's a need to focus, I think, for me here on our individual journey, amongst the chaos, and I always say out of chaos comes creativity, out of tension comes creativity, and we are co-creators. So I think what is going on for us here, particularly from the seed in Leo. Leo, the sun is in his temple there. Okay, so it's an extremely strong sun. So that's us, our spirit, our vitality. It's the archetype of the king, our sovereignty, our loyalty. Um, yeah, that's the feel of the sun there. Okay, it's like our plot line. Yeah, our plot line in life. So we seeded something there, which is very individual, very um, it's us on the stage. The focus is us on the stage. You know, we are the plot line in that sense. But now with the moon here over in Aquarius, Aquarius has more to do with the collective. So we're bringing that, the work that's been done over these few weeks into a collective stage. You know, how do we fit ourselves and, you know, having a loyalty to who we are, an authenticity, bringing our full selves onto the world stage, community stage, the stage of our family, wherever it is. How are we doing that? By holding that juxtaposition of ourselves, our authentic selves, our integrity, plus the community, because we only know ourselves by the other. So it's kind of like the self and the other, and how that tension is working, because it's an opposition, it's that red line. So it is a tension. How are we doing that? How are we managing that? So look at that in terms of yourself, your vitality, your sovereignty, your authority, and how that is fitting into collectives of people. So depending where it is in your chart, um, it will be your family, your community. It could even be your relation to the material, your environment, your possessions. So it's that kind of tension. We'll have a look later at the horoscopes and how it works out for you. But the other thing that is going on for us, and with this air trine, we have this minor trine, and this grand trine is making this beautiful kite shape. You can see it in the um, blue, and driving it in opposition to Saturn, and therefore Saturn Neptune, is Mars. This could be a difficult tension, but it can be a very creative tension. So Mars is in Libra. Now, he's exiled from his temple, which is here in Aries, where Saturn sits. And Saturn is fallen here because Saturn is exalted in Libra, where Mars is. So although both of them are debilitated and in opposition, and that's not sounding too good, is it? Um, they are mutually assisting each other. Okay, there's that energetic between them. But Mars in Libra, now Libra, it is a justice card in tarot, and Libra is about that harmony, about that balance, about what's equitable, what is fair, what is just. Okay. And then that is spearheading this beautiful kite shape and the Grand Trine, Air Trine. So we are looking at, you know, what is our messaging about what is fair? How do we, you know, if we're looking at this full moon, what is there in our relation, our sense of self, our authority, our authenticity, and being fully ourselves in relation to the other? Whatever that is, a person, a group, the world, you know, how do we maintain that authenticity, that sense of sovereignty, whilst also considering the other, and have that in a balance, in a harmony, in a, you know, right actions, right thinking, um, that kind of sense, that form of goodness, justice, So it is that balancing act. And if you look at the justice card, it is that woman holding the scales. And I always think of Ma'at with that. Ma'at, the Egyptian Ma'at in the underworld. And when you went in the underworld, you faced Ma'at and she had the scales and she weighed your heart against a feather. So there's that sense of looking within, the heart. Leo is the heart. It's the strength card. It's the heart of the lion, and that kind of sense of strength within ourselves, strength of character, force of character, living out our pure potential. Living out, unfolding that happens over time. And Matt would be weighing the heart against the feather. Is your heart light? Are you moving in such a way that you're not, because the shadow side of the king archetype is being a tyrant, it's domineering, it's arrogance, it's tyrannical. Okay, so our egos can become like that to different degrees, yeah, but we can also see out in the world that kind of tyrant archetypal energy working out in our world around the globe, with world governments, leaders, entities, and individuals. And we see that, and we see the unfairness. So, this is a question for us. We have that Saturn there. Now, Saturn in opposition, particularly with Neptune, is checking out the reality of our ideals. Okay, so it's that sense of, are we very idealistic? I mean, this Leo can have us, having illusions of grandeur. Okay, Neptune can bring in illusions as well. So we have Saturn here digging that foundation, and he is in Aries, which actually is the first sign of the zodiac. So it is about the self in that respect. It's about igniting, we come into the world, we pass through the birth canal, we're born, and we're beginning our individual life, that's not dependent on the mother. Okay, the Neptune can bring in that longing for that symbiotic relationship we had with our mother. It can bring in on that desire for spiritual union, and nothing wrong with all those, but Saturn's giving us a reality check here. Saturn is saying, Saturn, Kronos, Lord of Time, the God of Time, is saying, you've only got a certain amount of hours in the day. You've only got, um, you've only got a certain amount of energy, of skills, of ability. So it's um, that reality check in that sense. So Saturn is actually digging that foundation, and we have Mars here saying what is fair, what is equitable, um, how can I have that harmony and balance? Okay. Um, so Saturn digging that foundation of self, of it's a cardinal sign. Both of these are cardinal signs. Okay, they're strong signs. They're starters, and particularly with Aries, I always see it like the match being struck and lit. It's ignition. Okay, so Saturn, and depending where that is in your chart, will dictate in terms of what Saturn's doing there. But this is the fire to the air trine, okay? There's the air trine, there's the kite, and that's the fire there. We have a lot of fire going on in opposition. So Mars effectively is lighting that fire, of that balance. And Saturn, although Saturn would show you the limitations in terms of the material, what Saturn is also wonderful for is contemplation. To contemplate. It's a very mystic. I see Saturn as a mystic because he sat on the outer regions of our material. It's the planet before the outer planets were discovered. It was the planet that was on the threshold. He is the dweller on the threshold. So the last material planet that could be seen before the void of outer space. So we can see him like that. So he is connected to both. He's not just this disciplinarian, this planet that just brings limit, time, death, all the all the negative connotations, or the restricting, constricting. Although he does bring that, he also brings the mystic, the ability to contemplate. Okay, so what is he asking us to contemplate? We're sitting there with Neptune. This can be our ideals. We also have the sun in Leo, which can be this kind of idealistic view of yourself or of life or of what you want to do. And there is nothing wrong with ideals, but they're no good if we can't plant them in the material. So Saturn will help us to contemplate those things within our lives. Are we being idealistic about ourselves? Are we being idealistic about our situations? Is it grounded in the material? Is it something we can embody, we can bring through? The moon is that embodiment. We will later on in Cancer, where the moon rules her temple, we will have the beautiful Venus and Jupiter coming into conjunction, and that will be tomorrow. They'll be within well, they're kind of conjunct now because they're within a 3-degree orb, but the exact, I think, is on the 11th, 12th of August. So this Cancer is about the embodiment. It's soul. I spoke about before about soul into the material. So it's the embodiment of our soul spirit in the material. And they are conjuncting, and they are both benefic planets. So we have some beautiful energy coming there in the midst of all this chaos. I will probably do another video on that in itself. We do have, the ideal and the material, and we always need to aim for our ideals. If we just kind of were limited by everything that is a limitation, we wouldn't have that creativity. This tension that is in this chart is to bring us into creative ideas, creativity, inspiration. The air is inspiration, it is spirit, pneuma, chi, whatever you want to call it. It's that sense of being inspired, being creative, and there's a lot of creativity up there that's going to come for us and is coming for us. Plug into that in your chart if you are like in a state of tension. Mars will be frustrated here because, it's action. So we've got action versus contemplation. We need them both. We absolutely need them both, okay? But Mars will bring that ability to contemplate. So as we relate to others, ourself, our authentic self, in relation to our community, others, our world, are we being balanced? Because the action Mars will be doing is not massive outward action in that respect. It will be working with Saturn to contemplate what we can make real, what ideals can we make real, how can we balance, how can we have that sense of balance, of justice, of harmony, of peace, all those wonderful ideals? How can we embody them? What do we need to adjust within ourselves? Are there things outside of us that we need to weigh up, walk away from, or make adjustments, assert ourselves, our Leo energy, to make that better? What we're also having, excuse me, what we're also having is not just this Leo lunation, the new moon in Leo and the fruition of that. We do have longer term cycle, which is connected with Aquarius. So it goes from a new moon up. The book is by Dietrich Pessing. It's Lunar Shadows. And it's about the long-term cycles of lunation cycles, basically. So the cycle of this Aquarius moon, it was seeded at the new moon in Aquarius on the 9th of February 2024. Okay, then we forward 9 months and the quarter moon returns to Aquarius around the same degrees. And that was on the 9th of November 2024. Okay, so at that point, we would have had struggle, challenge. We would have had to push through something just as a seed pushes through the soil and the stones. Okay, so it's that we've seeded something, now we've got the challenge. So there's a 9 month gap between that, and then of course our full moon now on the 9th of August, which is around those same degrees, and it will be completed. So this is the fruit, but between now and the 9th of May 2026, it will be the last quarter. Okay, and that again will be around these degrees of Aquarius. Now, this last quarter we would have had our harvest. Okay, we'll be learning from the cycle, and it will complete in another 9 months after that with a new cycle there. So we have this longer term cycle. So it's not just this cycle with what we've seeded in Leo. It is specifically about that area of your chart, Aquarius, and it will be to do with all the significations of Aquarius. So we'll be talking about in that particular, well, we're talking about them now, but at the full moon, but this long-term cycle will be about Aquarius and that area of your chart. So we're talking about things like, again, ideals, potential of ideals. Aquarius is, that sign that looks to the future and looks back at the past. There's a kind of tension between those two things. So it's that sense of taking hold of what we've learned from the past, our life lessons, our legacies from, older generations that bleed through of our ancestral wisdom, or karma. It can be karma patterns. It can also be about, breaking out of the status quo. And we have, trine in this Aquarius, we have Uranus in Gemini. So that breaking out, breaking free, but also juxtapositioned with the traditional, with the past. So again, with this Mars, it's that at this point, it is about balancing that. It's seeing the fruit of this smaller cycle and balancing those things. So it can go really deep. Okay. So with Aquarius, we've got innovation, we've got all the sciencey stuff of the future, but we've got looking back, a bit of nostalgia about our ancestral lineage, karma, wisdom, knowledge. So we're in that position with this long-term cycle. So this full moon will be giving us insights into the Aquarius part of our charts. And because it is Leo and it's about our authority, our sovereignty, that kingly archetype that we can embody and we can move into, we'll be looking at the potentiality that we have, okay, but also the reality of our potential. Looking at our potentiality and how we can have that ideal for our future. So it is that reality check, and I think that's being brought in by that Mars, that balance and harmony that's being brought in there, and Saturn kind of digging the roots and giving us that reality check. Then we can be looking at kind of the past and the status quo that has come, that nice comfortable space we're in, plus progress. How can we progress? If we're stuck in this space of comfort and we're not challenging those boundaries of Saturn, how can we progress? And that's very Aquarian. So it's finding the way to manage those things. And Aquarius as well is also about this sense of the other, but also the isolation, the um, alienation. There can be a sense of alienation. What we seeded in Leo, we can bring this long cycle down to this, our sense of sovereignty, our ideas, our ideals, they could alienate us, or the ideals and ideas of others could make us alienate others. So, particularly in the relationship, and this is Venus's sign here that Mars is sat in. So, peace, harmony, and balance, and justice, and all that kind of package, but also set against our sense of who we are, what we want to achieve, and how we do that relationally with our partners, with our intimate relationships, in our businesses, in terms of our resources, our work, our money, anything. It's going to bring into question, or there will be that fullness of where we stand. So if we're aware while this lunation is going on, we can actually bring some beautiful readjustments, realignments to get ourselves ready for this huge shifts that are going on globally and going on in our world. We've got with this air trine, there's the technology, there's the AI that is coming in from external and bringing pressure to bear on us in terms of how how we maneuver ourselves in that. People are losing jobs, people are gaining jobs. We've got, the polarity of that, the absolute brilliance of technology and what it can bring to us collectively. But we've also got, the shadow side, the darker side of that. So we need to be weighing all these things up. But on a very personal level, I'm looking at. So where do we sit with all those things? Where do we sit in sense of being ourselves, being our ideal selves, or aiming towards that ideal in relationship to the other? How are we doing that? Are there things within us that we need to change? Maybe we need to, with this Saturn here, who's ruling, maybe we need to get real in terms of our limitations, our, of time, of energy, of skill, of talent, of ability. And we need to progress with that. We need to look at creative ways to extend that. If we haven't got enough time to do what we need to be doing, do we need to collaborate with others? Do we need to bring in a community of people or one other person? Use the skills of another, where we're lacking? Do we need to skill up to fit into this wider kind of paradigm of our lives? Because they would be changing substantially with what's going on cosmically, what's going on collectively in the collective consciousness. There's massive spiritual changes there, and what is going on in the material, in the world, and in our communities around us. So there's a whole lot there, a whole lot. But we do need to be looking. We cannot change anything externally without changing ourselves. So we need to face ourselves, be honest with ourselves. What was going on back in, I've got to look again, memory like a sieve, the 9th of February 2024. What was being seeded there? If you've got a good memory, go back. If you keep journals, go have a look. They would have been something seeded at that new moon, and it would have become very apparent by the first quarter. So the following November, the 9th of November 2024, there would have been a challenge, a struggle with that seeded. And there's the fruition now. This is the fruition of that long cycle. So what's showing, what are you pregnant with? You know, what what are you expecting to birth between now and May 2026? Okay, because it should be visible now. You should be able to see it. And the same with the smaller cycle. Where were your challenges in terms of your sovereignty, your authority, your sense of vitality and life force? who you are in the world. Where is that challenge there when it fits with the other, when it fits with the collective, your groups, your friends, and also your ideals, because we have this, this sense of ideals here, and with Neptune here. Okay, enough said. You could go on and on and on. There is so much. I mean, talk about pregnancy. This chart is pregnant with possibility, and it's exciting, it's challenging, it's somewhat chaotic, but it's pregnant with possibility. And I think if we do our best to align with our true self and to live as authentic, well, excuse me, as authentically as we can in community, in our intimate relationships, in our relationships with the material, the people around us, our community, and collectively, then we're going to have a better chance of, aligning with these huge, impactful, enormous transits that are happening in our sky. Because what happens above happens below. As above, so below. As within, so without. So if we're vibing with the chaos, and we're lost in it, we're confused in it, we need to focus down, just like I did with, with this chart. I done all sorts and got rid of it because it was just too scattered, too incoherent. So maybe that's it. We need to grasp hold of our coherence in these times. And the only way we can do that is focusing down in ourselves, looking where we're misaligned, whether it's our body, our health, our mental, our mind, our emotions, soul, spirit. We need to align. It is really important to align now so that we can cope, so that we have that kind of visionary clarity of where we're going. We might have to tweak, we might have to change, but we can only be aligned in this moment. So I would suggest, if you're feeling confused, chaotic, focus down within yourself, that Leo, your sovereignty, your authenticity, your sense of vitality and life force, and align as much as you can to your ideal Neptune, okay, and the ideals of future ideals of Aquarius. Right, so I'm going to have a look now at each sign and see bring it, yeah, focus it down on each sign. And again, it will be a general focus on all the signs. You need to have a look at your birth chart because there'll be significations and planets in different places. So to make it even more concrete, you need to know what your natal chart's saying about that. So, yeah, just a plug now. If you want a reading, an astrology reading, then check out soulsymbols.co.uk. And while I'm at it, if you're enjoying this, please like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Are you feeling this chaos? Are you feeling this confusion? Are you confused about the world yourself? Or are you cutting through? And if you're cutting through this, please let us know. Please share it because we'd all like to know. Oh, hello, Aries. Just get rid of that. Okay, hello, Aries. So you have this full moon in your 11th house. Okay. And Leo is in your 5th house. So this again is that theme of self and other. The 11th house it's got to do with your ideals, your hopes, your dreams, your wishes, but it's also about the support that's around you. So what is manifesting here I'm pointing, I'll point from the seeding at the new moon will be the fullness of your creativity, the fullness of your relationship with your children or what you are birthing. That can be a business, a creativity, a project. But this is about pleasure. This access along with the 3rd house where Uranus is about pleasure, kama, pleasure. Okay, so what you have here is whatever was seeded is visible now. So in terms of all those themes of the fifth house, what is visible now? Okay, what are you seeing now? Like that full-time pregnancy, what is showing up? What were you a bit later down the line between this now and next week, which is the last quarter? What will be your hardest from that? Is there tweaks you can give now? Is there can you bring balance to some things? And the other thing, Aries, that you have, your ruling planet is the driver of this Grand Trine I was talking about earlier, and it's in opposition to your first house, which is you, and you will be and would have been having Saturn doing a work on you, digging down into your foundations of who you are. You know, this is your body, your character. This is you in the world, okay? So that kind of ego formation. Who am I? What am I? What am I here for? Those kind of questions, those things about you. So Saturn will be laying foundations there. So you may have been having quite the time of it, Aries. Um, and it will remain there for just under 2.5 years. So it's the beginning of the work, okay? It's also going to go back into your 12th house. But enough of that. Your Mars, which is in that lovely relationship, you know, it's in mutual reception, will be supporting that. But the action is going to come from outside of yourself because this is your house of the other. It is relationships, and that is often marriage partners, lovers, you know, intimate relationships. But it can also be to do with your business, to do with to do with business work, you know, those kind of relationships. So you will probably have people in your life showing you a mirror. There may be constructive or not so constructive criticism or tensions between those relationships. So the clue for you, you know, with your Mars in Libra is about that balance. So you're looking at, I talked about Ma'at weighing the heart against the feather, you know, is your heart light in whatever conflict or difficulty may be coming through from the other, or it may just be challenges, you know, challenging situations with relationships, challenging words, as well as conflict. But you know, is your heart light in there? You need to look because of this, you know, this sun in Leo where it was seeded. This would be about your authenticity. Are you speaking up, Aries? You know, are you are you allowing the other to dictate to you who you are, what you are, where your boundaries should be? When Saturn's in your first house, it's often readjusting your boundaries. If they're too wide, it becomes limiting. If they're too limiting, if you set them too limiting, they'll be expanded. So there's that sense of, you know, looking at yourself in terms of your time, your stability, the foundations that you have there. But this Mars is other people. So at this full moon, whatever's been illumined in your relationships, take note of them. You have Pluto going through that 11th house. Again, that will be there for 20 plus years, okay? It's not going to leave Aquarius now. It's back and forwards to Capricorn. But it moved there in 2023, okay? So it is doing a work in there. So it would have been in there in that long-term cycle. So you may be finding transformations. There may be material coming up from your unconscious in terms of how you assert yourself, and that can be good or bad. You know, well, not that it's bad, but it can be, you know, where you over assert or where you're not asserting yourself enough. Again, to do with boundaries, to do with expression. So, you know, have a look at what are your ideals for relationship, okay? What are those ideals? You know, are they born out of if yeah, if we look at, I'm just looking at this this opposition to Mercury, this can often be about propaganda, indoctrination. Okay, so what is in your subconscious, in terms of how you're relating? Are you relating a certain way out of the authenticity? Your own sense of self, authority, sovereignty, authenticity? Or is it something, groups can be a family group, especially with this seventh house. Are you relating in a way that is almost programmed, indoctrinated into you? Yeah. Groups, look at your groups, any groups, and your hopes and wishes. See how they're juxtaposed. Have a look if there's any tension there. What you want to create as opposed to what the group is creating. Um, yeah, have a look at that because there is massive transformation. And if we look at Aquarius as the sign where that long cycle was seeded, I'm just looking at my notes, that was seeded in February 2024. What were going on in your groups then? Any groups, in your hopes, your wishes, your aspiration, what you want to create in the world, that kind of co-creation in the world. What is it, Aries, that you were doing then? And was there a struggle when that cycle's moon became a first quarter? What were the challenges? What were you trying to push through in terms of wishes, hopes, ideals, dreams? What were you pushing through on? What what were the dynamics of the group? Is there a transformation that is happening with your ideals? Your ideal future, your ideal place in the groups that you're associated with, and that can be anything from activism, in terms of world politics, things that you're not happy with, and that can be the group that constitutes your friends, your associates. So have a look at what's changing there, in your ideals of that. You may have a real transformation of those ideals of how you see yourself in relation to groups over these next 20 years. Are the groups fulfilling your ideals, your hopes, your wishes? Are your friends set changing or do they need to change, because we do have this Saturn and Neptune, that's ideals, that's reality. Okay, we have that in a sextile to Pluto, that's in that's in sextile. So we've got that fire of you, with the air, what is the messaging that's coming through there for you, Aries? Do you need to change things? So that is quite a lot to look at there. And with Uranus there in that trine, you are going to have maybe breakdowns of your groups. That's in a trine. There may be breakdowns in that groups and in your ideals. But there'll also be breakthroughs. There could be sudden changes, but there'll be breakthroughs and breaking through. This is about freedom and independence. And this is about your local community and the people near to you, brothers, siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, your local environment, your day to day. Are there challenges there? Are there transformations there? Are things kind of shifting? This is tectonic shifting with these two outer planets, okay? So a lot to work with there. Align yourself, get that balance of Libra, and use the challenges that come via other people as a kind of measuring stick for you because this is about just justice, but it's about measure, it's about proportion, um just rightness, and excellence for yourself. So do you need to change? Are there things that are wrangling other people that you need to look at in yourself and change? And as I say, there can be that pattern from the past with this Mercury Pluto, there can be a pattern from the past that is affecting the way you see yourself, the way you see your place in groups, can be what's come from our childhood. And this third house is about, early learning, where Uranus is going to be making breakthroughs. Okay, then, Aries, I hope that was helpful. If you want to book a personal read, go to soulsymbols.co.uk. Let me know in the comments below what is resonating with you out of that. It would be really good to know. All right, bye bye. Hello, Taurus. We're going to have a look at the chart. Let me move this so you're on the ascendant. Here you are, Taurus. Okay, so this full moon for you is happening in your 10th house, where you also have Pluto, Lord of the Underworld, the Great Transformer, up there in your 10th house. Okay, so we're looking at your public face, how you are, the sun, the vitality of you. And in in your workplace, in your public life, in your vocation, anywhere where you're public that's away from home, that's you're putting out there, your face in public, how you're shining, yeah. And the sun, your Leo, is in your fourth house, okay? So this is where it was seeded. So the fourth house is the root of all things. It is the foundations, okay? It's your family, your home, your family, your private space. So it was seeded here. So it's likely to be very much seeded your sense of identity that comes from your lineage, your roots. Um, it could be specifically, literally, to do with your home and family. Okay. So, what has emerged publicly? What has become a full term pregnancy? What you created there in your private space. What is showing out in the world? Have there been things that have come that have been like hiccups publicly? You've got the moon there, although the moon in Aquarius is kind of it gives you the ability to see objectively, to intellectualize your feelings. So this is a good time for you, Taurus, to have a look emotionally. Have there been any public outbursts recently? Is there a transformation in the way you relate to the group, the way you relate to your friends, your co-workers? Uh, anyone there within groups. It could be sports, it could be, yeah, anything where you're public facing groups of people. So that is all up for transformation for you, Taurus. So have a look at that. Have you noticed things? Aquarius is about the past, but it's also about the future. Have your ideals about yourself, your sense of authority, authenticity that's there in the fourth, in your inner space, in your inner world? Have you been noticing there are aspects of you that you're able to see, that you're able to analyze and think about, how you move in the world, how you relate to other people in a group setting? Because they will be the things that are up for transformation. So Saturn for you, which rules this full moon, is sat in your 12th house with Neptune. So again, this is in sextile to the moon, okay? But this is about foundations, and this is the hidden house. So it could be that, at the new moon, it was very hidden in terms of what was being seeded there, okay? And it could be that you're seeing some of that hiddenness coming out of the groups. And the 12th house can be about self sabotage, it can be about unconscious patterns manifesting. And as you've got it in the 10th house, this may be what has happened. Okay. If it has, it's up for transformation, it's up for a change for you. And the Mars you have there is in the 6th house. Maybe here, this is this is about your hard work, your hard work position. It's actually arter. This is about the arter, the work you're born to do. Is it that you're unsatisfied at work? Have you had things happen there, or you've got a sense of pushing through with action because you're not in your ideal place, or have the people within your workplace, oh, excuse me, or the public sphere, um, are they rubbing you up the wrong way? Are they gritting on you? Okay, because this is in opposition and it's pushing this whole air trine. So this would be to do around your hard work. It could be your health also. You know, Mars can bring difficulties with health um, in terms of how you're dealing with your health. Is there something you need to change there? Are you working too hard and it's affecting your health there? You know, because these things are going to come up for transformation for you, Taurus. Pluto will be there for 20 years. Been there since 2023. So that long cycle for you as well. If we're looking at the long cycle there, you know, what is changing? If you made intentions here in your home family, your inner work, you might be doing karmic ancestry work, you know, that you're taking public. Maybe that was your seeding. What will come out? What archetypally may come out here is that sense of who you are within your groups, how you're authentically pushing out what you need. You know, if there are conflicts between home and work, your time management, okay, how hard you're working, Mars, these are going to come up at this full moon. They may be apparent now. You may be looking at, no, this is too much. I haven't got any time for me, for what I want to do. My ideal is to be able to, you know, have time with groups of people. So it's looking at, you know, are you going to keep with this Aquarius's status quo? And that long-term cycle seeded on the 9th of February 2024, you know, was there something in your work and in relationship to people within your work? Was there something there that was seeded? Were there ideals that you had, you know? Um, did you feel alienated publicly or in your workspace? Um, you know, are you doing things for popularity, for progress? And there is nothing wrong with all these things. They're just themes of Aquarius and the 10th house, okay? So they're just themes there because there's this push here with Mars trining here to kind of cut through the things that are keeping you from being your best self, from that um, from that sense of shining brightly publicly. I mean, this is the top of the chart. You know, the sun likes to shine there. Um, so yeah, it is about measure. It's about proportion. You know, that sense with Libra, that justice, that principle of justice, truth, beauty, trust, justice, you know, it's the best version. It is the ideal version that we work towards. So, you know, does there need some balance there with your work and your home life, you know, or does there need balance to be wrought there in terms of you expressing yourself fully publicly, being proud of who you are, you know, showing off your pregnancy? Are there things that you're doing at home that you were seeding in your home family, you know, that needs to come public? These are things and questions that you'll be needing to ask yourself. And, you know, that long term cycle that started February 2024, you would have had a point of struggle in November. Okay. And this will be the result of you working through that challenge with work from November 2024, sort of 9 months ago. So if you have a look at that and have a look what's going on, you should be able to get to the bottom of how you're relating in terms of yourself, your inner self, you know, who you are at the roots, and how that is shining out brightly in public, in your workplace. Your ruling planet, if you're struggling or you need some support, your ruling planet, Venus, is sat in your third house, okay? And it is in conjunction to the other benefic Jupiter, okay? So it's fertility and expansiveness there. And that's your environment. So it could be your work environment, okay? Could be your neighborhood, could have to do with how you travel to work. Okay, there's a beautiful beneficial support happening for you this week, Taurus. So if there are struggles there, if there are changes that you need to implement, this week is excellent for it. Okay. All right then, Taurus. Hope that was helpful. If it was, or if you want to know more about your personal chart, with your own set of planets in, then go over to soulsymbols.co.uk and book a reading there. I do astrology and tarot. And if you are having, breakthroughs, you're having beautiful things happening for you or struggles, how is this energy, this kind of chaotic and confusing energy, how are you slicing through it? Drop a comment in the comment box. I'd be so interested to know. All right, Taurus, bye bye. Hello, Gemini. So, full moon for Gemini is happening in the ninth house up here in Aquarius. So Aquarius is sitting very nicely there. It is an air sign, and the ninth house has a lot to do with higher learning, and that can be academic learning, but it can also be the sense of higher wisdom, higher knowledge. So the esoteric, the contemplative arts, the mysticism. So and here we have the early learning. So it may be down here in your third house, you have decided that you want to break free from what you learn at an early age. And why I'm saying this, you have also in the ninth house Pluto, which will be there for 20 years. It's a long-term transit, 20 plus years, opposite Mercury. This opposition can often be about propaganda, indoctrination. So there may have been things out in the world, and in your own life that you are wanting to change via learning through the mind. Also, this is about, air is about breath. So this could literally be a meditative practice that you're looking at, Gemini. It could be a way of quietening your mind down so that you can kind of look into yourself, Leo, and also look into what the truth of the world is. It is a house of philosophy, so it's what am I here for? It's connected with the Dharma houses, your purpose for being here. So we're having a massive transformation there over a long period of time, but it may be looking at your inner, your early learning, the things that were formative for you that are no longer valid for you. And with Aquarius, we do have that sense of the past and the future and our ideals. And sorry, one sec, I'm looking at my notes. Yeah, the ideals and the status quo. So it could be that you're breaking out of that. That is what is fruiting here. There may have been some um, discomfort with your daily life, your flow, the your siblings, your family, aunts and uncles, the group think of the family here or your local environment, how are you fitting in there? Because we were talking there about in the look at the overall chart about this Grand Trine, weren't we? And we've got Saturn in Libra, not Saturn, sorry, Mars in Libra heading up this Grand Trine. Okay. And it is particularly poignant to you because in this Grand Trine, you've got Uranus in your first house. Okay. So that has recently come into Gemini and it is unexpected change. It is Uranus is the great disruptor and it's often about independence and freedom. So that independent thought that you want, maybe changing, anything you were indoctrinated there, Mercury, Pluto, that transformation, that inner transformation, that mental transformation, the way you think, may have been stuff that was, disrupted by Uranus there, because it is, as I said, unexpected change. But something that you're kind of were feeling 2 weeks ago at the Leo new moon, that you were thinking, I'm not happy with this. I'm not happy with the daily ebb and flow of my life, the routines. I need to break out of this. It may be something you see in your local community that is then reflected out there in the wider world, within society, Aquarius, that status quo that you're unhappy for. So you're looking to change that. And this would be a long transformation for you, okay? Because it's Pluto that is going to bring that transformation. But this is a heads up for what is going to go on in that Grand Trine with these outer planets, which is going to last for some time. So we're looking at this kind of transformation about your early learning and higher learning. Okay, could be that you're breaking away. You may have been brought up in a certain religion or a certain philosophy, paradigm, ideology that you are now breaking out of. And this Uranus will give you that independence. This house is you. It's your character. It's you in the world, you interacting in the world. So we have the Mars down there in your fifth house. That is the house of children. It's about creativity. Could be that you're going to start a creative way of being, or the knowledge that you've acquired, the wisdom you've acquired in that ninth house. You're going to transform and take it out to other people. But it is how you, very much, this is how you are relating to yourself and spiritually. It is that Dharma house, okay? So I think Mars is pushing for that change. And it will be within the group context and of your ideals, because it's opposing this Mars, not Mars, it's opposing this Saturn and Neptune for you. So in the 11th house, it's your ideals. And with Neptune there, it'd be more so about your ideals, your sense of the spiritual, your dreams, visions. But you've got that Saturn there, which is directly opposing Mars in your fifth, which is going to, it's going to bring a show of reality, but also, as I said, that contemplative aspect of Saturn. So not just the reality of what you've got to work with, but your contemplation of how life is, how your ideals are, what you want to learn, how you want to progress, how you want to transform, how you want to be in the world. It may be that, with Uranus in this first house, that you're going to learn what your purpose is. I mean, I think our overall purpose is soul growth, to grow, in how we are. So to grow mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, it's growth. That's what we do. We grow, and it's that push to growth. And with Uranus there, it'd be independence and freedom. So breaking away from anything you've been indoctrinated with, not necessarily by your family. It could be society, culture. You could be looking out on the world and thinking, no, the world's not right now. It's chaotic. It doesn't reflect my ideals. It doesn't reflect how I want to see the future of the world. Okay, so we got that balancing in the fifth with Mars there. So that action may be balancing what was, the past and the future there in Aquarius, in terms of your philosophy of the world, the way you look at the world, the way you interact with the world, and bringing your wisdom to bear there. A transformation. You may be seeing the potential you had in the past, what was seeded in the past, and what is possible now. What is possible for the future, what your potential can do out there in the world, particularly around the subjects of knowledge. And on a mundane level, it could be, your local environment. What was seeded there was this push for freedom to something bigger. You may be considering traveling abroad, or you could be considering relocating abroad. So these are all the things that are going on there. We have a transformation happening in your ninth house. In the longer cycle, that was seeded, the new moon in Aquarius was seeded on the 9th of February 2024, if you want to track that. So what was seeded there, and the first quarter, which would have been a time of challenge, it may have been a challenge to your ideals, to your thinking, to your philosophy, to your overarching mental structures, yeah. There may have been a challenge there in November 2024, and now this is the showing of it at our full moon. Okay, so if you want to track that back, that will be going on until May 2026. So have a look at both the short cycle from 2 weeks ago and that juxtaposition of you, your sovereignty, you know, your authenticity in your everyday life with your neighbours, with family, as you travel about, excuse me, and do your daily thing. And, you know, how that is showing up in the world. Are there things you need to learn? Do you need a mentor to support you to change that, to get a broader view? Yeah. So that's what I have for you, Gemini. I hope that was helpful. This is a very general read for all Geminis. So if you want a more personal one, it will, you know, more personal reading. Obviously, you'll have your planets in different positions there, and it could have different themes, topics, significations for you, although the houses will be the same. The planets, you may have conjunctions, etc. But if you want a reading, pop along to soulsymbols.co.uk and book one there. And, you know, let us know, did this resonate? Are there big shifts there in your ninth house with Aquarius? Are you relating differently to yourself, to how you're thinking, you know, your spiritual life, your inner life? The paradigms you have, your ideology is shifting, or your ideals transforming. Yeah, pop a comment below. I'll be fascinated to see. Okay, then, Gemini, that's what I have for you. So, Cancer, just let me get rid of this. So, this full moon, Cancer, is happening for you, and that's your ruling sign, the moon. The full moon is happening in your 8th house. Okay, so the seeding of this full moon happens in your 2nd house, which is your house of resources, it's income, it's your possession and values. Okay, so that happened in your 2nd house 2 weeks ago, but we have the fruition of it, the showing. And this is the 8th house. It is the house of other people's money. So it could be your partner's resources or your family's resources. It's also to do with debt. So it could be that you were seeding something, you know, connected with your finances. You had a bit of a difficulty there, and you're sorting out debts, and maybe the debt plan is in place. It can also be karmic debts. So it can be things that you owe or others owe to you. Okay, so there could be karmic material going on there. It's also to do with death. So we could be looking at, you know, fears and anxieties in terms of um, the topics of death. You know, you may have someone around you who's coming to the end stage of life, and you're looking at that. It does have to do with inheritance also. So if you were, you know, if you were dealing down here with issues of inheritance, it could be that's coming to fruition, that you're dealing with a probate or whatever you deal with in your country, but that, you know, it's legacies and inheritance. It could mean that some money is literally coming in from the gods, from wills and legacies, big money. It's not kind of the money here that you earn to survive. Okay, but there could be that tension between those houses, or has been that tension between those polarities, that you've been concerned about, you know, your retirement or savings. Yeah, so these are the sort of topics involved. And there is, as I was talking about with this Grand Trine, this kite shape, you have Mars in your fourth house of home, family, roots, the foundations of you, your inner life. And it's in opposition to Saturn in your 10th house, which is your public face. It can be work. So we could have here something going on with money, resources, um, that need balancing out in terms of your foundations. So this is the energy coming from Mars that is driving this whole big kite here. Okay. So the foundations, your ideals, Neptune, your ideals, and Aquarius can be to do with ideals for the future. So maybe there needs to be changes in your work, or that you need to sort out pension, retirement funds for later on, um, to do with your home and family. So you have that security, because there can be that anxiety there in the 8th house. It may be that anxiety has come to, it's showing now, it's affecting you now. So it is a wonderful time to be sorting it out, because in your first house, which is the house of you have this beautiful conjunction beginning. This week is a wonderful time to look at those subjects of money, security, finances, work, home, because of this beautiful, fertile, benefic conjunction there for you, Cancer. And, as Cancer, that there is that care, that need for security. So there's a sense here with this forming in the sky that you've got this beautiful opportunity to look at that, to balance that. We were talking about the balance, your relationship to money. If your relationship to money is good and it's ordered, fine, but if you have a bit of a chaotic relationship with money, this is a wonderful time to seek that balance and seek out what it is in you that there's that imbalance. There can be imbalance simply because of the outside circumstances, but this can bring you such creativity in your first house. It can bring you a wonderful creativity, a wonderful sense of optimism, expansion of yourself, but that creativity that can bring along those resolutions to these material concerns, because you have Saturn there, and I'm thinking of time. Maybe you're coming to the end of your work life and you are concerned about how you're going to finish up your mortgage or pay for your rent and your bills and look after what family you have there. So, yeah, this week, if you haven't looked already, is a wonderful time to look at that. Okay. And you have, a part of this trine, you've got Uranus in your 12th house, and that can bring about sudden and unexpected change. But this is the 12th house. It's a lot of hidden stuff here. This is your subconscious. And sometimes, especially with issues of money and home, we can be, it's a house of hidden enemies, but we can be our own hidden enemy. So Uranus would be there kind of breaking through and giving you that sense of independence deep in your subconscious. Okay, deep in your subconscious. It'll give you the ability over time to break free, to just break free of that anxiety and those constraints that you've got going on there. And with it in trine to Pluto, that is transformation in this area of your chart, this 8th house. So that anxiety, and if it is about, the legacy you want to leave for your family, there can be those breakthroughs there. It can upend those patterns that are hidden, and any self-sabotaging patterns we have around money. So that can be things, and looking at Pluto and Mercury there, it can be things we learned in our childhoods, we were indoctrinated with, either by our family, our community. It can even be, culturally, religiously, our views of money can be formed. early on, you know, but these can be broken through. These subconscious patterns can break through. It is the sign of unexpected change. So also that can bring through here a transformation in this area of your chart. So any anxieties you have there about your resources, um, but breakthrough with resources from other people's money. Okay, so that's what I have for you, Cancer. Um, it's a very general read, so take what resonates off that, what is actually happening with you, but also if you want a read, you know, with your own planets, where your planets are sighted, it can give you a very specific and different read. Go to soulsymbols.co.uk and book a reading there. I also do tarot reading there and lunation readings, both astrological and tarot. So go book one there if you want to. Let us know how this resonated with you. If it didn't resonate with you, you know, drop a comment in the box below. Let me know if you liked it. Subscribe. Okay. Oh, and like, or even just like if you liked it. All right. Okay, then, Cancer. Bye bye. Leo. Oh, just get rid of that. Do it every time. Hello, Leo. So this full moon is sat there in your seventh house, okay? So what you seeded there, and happy birthday, Leo, because it's your birthday month. And what you seeded there is in your first house, okay? So you seeded something 2 weeks ago that had to do with you, your character, your vitality, your body, your, you know, anything that you seeded at that new moon, whether you done it knowingly or subconsciously, has come to fruition here. And it's in your seventh house. So I am guessing that seeding was to do with relationship because there's a fullness there. There's a full term pregnancy there in your seventh house. And that's often marriage partners, lover, intimate relationships, but it can also be to do with business. So we have this fullness here. Okay, right in that relationship. So whatever has been going on over the last 2 weeks, if you've had fractious relationships, if there has been a bit of skew-ifness in your relationships, it will be showing up now in its fullness, okay? And you do have, and have had since 2023, Pluto sitting here in your seventh house. So the themes of relationships in your Aquarius sector of your site is up for transformation. Now, Pluto tends to, Lord of the Underworld, he tends to dig up stuff you're not fully aware of. And there is no better place to learn about yourself than from others. They act as a mirror on us. So it may be something is mirrored at this point through those closest to you, okay? The other thing that I'm seeing here with this kite shape, we have Mars in Libra looking for balance, looking for justice, for excellence, for, you know, measure and proportion, sat here in your third house opposite Saturn, who is the Lord, the ruler of this full moon in your ninth, okay? We can look at the third in terms of what's Mars is trying to bring into balance, bring that harmony, bring that kind of sense of proportion in your third house. We can look at that in terms of, because the third house has to do with close relatives, not your mother, father, but siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, your local environment, your neighbourhood. It can be with neighbours. So this reflection of the moon, reflecting the lion heart of Leo, which you'll know all about, that strength, that courage, that vitality, life force, is being reflected in your relationships. So what you need to look is at all your relationships, the way that you're relating. Are you, are you having difficulty with those people you're relating to? Has there been conflict? Has it been out of balance here in the third house? That can be with neighbours, it can be with your wider family, because up there in the ninth, you have Saturn, which will be there for 2.5 years, ploughing the ground, so to speak, digging the foundations in your ninth house. And it's a fire house, it's Aries, it's about the person, it's initiating, it's an initiator. So Saturn will be digging out those foundations of the ninth. And this often has to do with your um, wisdom, your knowledge, higher learning, rather than early learning. So with this Pluto here in this kite formation, I am thinking that what could be going on for you, Leo, is that Mars is trying to bring balance to your relationships and via breaking down what you believe about relationships, okay? And I'm saying this because Pluto in your seventh is opposite Mercury in your first, okay, and that is all to do with you. Now, this combination can often bring um, propaganda, indoctrination. So, where are we indoctrinated? It's mostly in our early life, third house, in our early learning from our families, our schools, teachers, peer groups. It's our character formation down there in the third house, okay, and it is being challenged, that learning. So you may want to look at any conflict or any kind of irritation with anyone you relate to in your wider family, particularly with those you're more intimate with. Have a look at what's going on there, because they, as I said, are acting as a reflector to you, a mirror. And then check out, where is balance needed? Okay. What are your ideals? Okay. Ideals about relationship. We have Neptune there. That's, uh, that can be large ideals. That can be the needing and wanting to merge with other people. That can be going back to the oneness. But we have Saturn bringing a reality check to Neptune there in the ninth. So nothing wrong with ideals you can push, but sometimes we need to ground those in the reality of what is, okay? We need to ground it in the reality of who we are, your Leo sun, who we are, what we're able to do, our time constraints, our constraints of our character, of our beliefs ninth, of, what is in our subconscious, what is sitting around there that we're not fully aware of, but that kind of oils the machine, our subconscious, the patterns there. So there is that from your first to your seventh, there is that pressure too. There's a transformation to your beliefs. There's a digging of new foundations, new ideals in your belief systems, okay? And that's being spurred on for a need for balance, for harmony here in your third. And that harmony could be being brought about by challenging your beliefs on relationships, which are formed in your early life and enacted in later life, in your overarching beliefs. So Pluto is going to be doing a work for 20 plus years there in your seventh house. So there's going to be massive transformation if you work for that. There's an opportunity it's about death and rebirth. So it's the dying off of old ideas of relationship or faulty patterns of relationship. And Mars will be there to bring that balance. An Aquarius here, this is about the past and the future, but I feel this full moon will bring you completely into the present here. So I would say be very, because the moon in, sorry, I'm jumping about a bit. My mind's going very quick. The moon in Aquarius here is often a time when we can look objectively, intellectually analyze our emotions, and that is to do with our emotions connected to relationships. Look at things, look at boundaries. Have you got boundaries in that are really rigid? Saturn there, because of your belief system, because you feel you need to self-protect. Are they too rigid, or are they too expansive? Ninth house, there's a kind of expansiveness there. That is the joy of the sun in your first house and your ruler. So have a look there with your boundaries, how you're relating. Do you need to loosen? Do you need to tighten those boundaries? Is there a way that you're being in relationship, because that pressure is coming from Pluto there to you? Is there a way you're being in your relationship? It can have to do with power dynamics, where you're giving away too much of your power, that you're losing your sense of self, authenticity, or where you are exerting power. Yeah, it really is. Have a look at your reflection in someone else's face that you relate to there. But the beautiful thing you have here, you have this gorgeous um, conjunction between the two benefics, Jupiter and Venus is specifically to do with relationships. So you are having this week, it is a brilliant time to look at how you relate and how you're related to, and where there needs to be balance, because this is a beautiful benefic conjunction in your 12th house, and that is the house of what is hidden. So it can often be those unconscious patterns that we're moving from, patterns that was formulated in our early learning, that Saturn is trying to dig down into and lay new foundations, new ideals there for you. Okay, so this week is an optimum time to look at that, because we are meant to shine. We are meant to, relate in an authentic, truthful way. But there also needs to be balance. We need to be free in our hearts. So if we are repressed or we are oppressing, that balance needs to change. And that will continue on for quite some time. And the this sextiles and trines will continue on between Uranus, the great disruptor up there in the 11th house, and you know with Neptune, your ideals, and with Lord of the Underworld. Okay, that it's all going to carry on for you for quite some time. So this is a real opportune moment to start that work if you haven't already. Check out how you're relating. Look where there needs to be balance, where there needs to be right action, where there needs to be proportion and measure. If you have a tendency to flare up in anger, look at the root of that. Look what's underneath that. Anger is there. It's a signal. Anger, it's a signal that we're not happy on some level, and we need to look and we need to adjust if that is us. I'm not saying we all have anger, nothing wrong with anger. I think it just informs you that something's not sitting right. So have a look at that. Have a look at proportion. Have a look at the measures you use towards yourself and towards others. So that's what I have for you, Leo. I hope that was helpful. If you enjoyed it, drop a comment. Tell me what resonates with you. I'll be really interested. Um, Subscribe if you haven't already, it helps the algorithm. And if you want a personal astrology reading, go to soulsymbols.co.uk and book a reading there. There's also lunation readings and tarot readings there. Okay then, Leo. Bye bye. Hello, Virgo. So, this full moon for you is in your 6th house. So, that is the house of hard work, can be the house of health, employees, And the seeding moment for you was in your 12th house. Leo is your 12th house. So that's a kind of pretty difficult house. It's, it's what's hidden. It's often to do with the unconscious, the things that are hidden. So, yeah, a difficult house because you may not have been fully aware of what you were seeing there, unless you've been doing shadow work and you're very clear what you were dealing with there, or as clear as you can be there. So, the moon is to do with your body. So, this could actually be, that health issue you have. It could be, just one sec, the door's banging. Could be to do with your health, or matters of the body. It could be to do with your relationship to your body. And this full moon is probably bringing a fullness of that. So notice your body. It may not actually be health problems. Uh, it may be the fact that your nervous system is upside down or on full alert. But notice your body. It will be a good time at the moment to do practices where you're breathing, where you're mindful of your body, mindful of what you're eating, you're drinking, you're taking, if you're inclined that way. But yeah, it could be a real reminder to take care of your health. There may be issues around that. You've also got Pluto sat there. There's Pluto in your sixth house. Now, Pluto's been there since 2023 and it will be there for over 20 years. So there's a big transformation in your sixth house, Aquarius. And Aquarius is to do with things in the past and future and your ideals. So, what are your ideals about your work, about your body, about finding the balance between what is good for you physically, mentally, emotionally, and what you need to do for your work? Okay. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because over there in your second house is the driver of this air trine. Okay, so it's your second, your 10th, and your sixth house here. Okay, that is your work, your public face, your career. This is hard work and your health, and this is your income. So there's a drive here for balance in terms of your resources, of what you need to survive. Okay, so Mars is seeking that balance, that measure, that proportion, and excellence, really. So there's going to be massive breakdowns, breakthroughs, breakthrough. There may be a need for independence here. You may be looking at doing home business or changing your career. That may come over the 7 years that Uranus is transiting your 10th house. It's often sudden and unexpected change. So it could be that your health or your overworking is putting pressure here in your 10th house to change that. So you may be looking at things like that. But this Mars is also in opposition to this Saturn, okay, Saturn Neptune over there in your 8th house, which is other people's money. So I think I said before, it might have been in the new moon, the Leo new moon, but definitely there could be, particularly if it's health related and health related to your work, it could be that there is balance brought about by other people's money. So there may be compensation from a health issue if you've had an accident at work. There could be a payout, uh, legacies, in terms of inheritance, other people's money. This could be particularly to do with your partner's money, which is putting pressure on you to work harder, to have a sense of independence, financial independence in your income and your career. Okay. The other thing I want to look at is Virgo is ruled by Mercury, which is sat over here in the 12th house along with us with the sun, and it's about to station direct, and it's been in retrograde in your 12th house, so it's been resetting, reviewing, redoing. And in opposition to Pluto, this is often about indoctrination, propaganda, it can be. So there may be messages that are hidden there about your attitudes towards your work, that sense of you have to work yourself into the ground to get your income, to have a good public face, to have that status. So this would be being called into your awareness at this full moon. That is reflecting off the sun where Mercury sits. Okay, so again, have a look at that. Bring that balance. Okay, bring the balance of your second house resources, financial affairs. Have a look at your financial affairs. The eighth house can be to do with fear and anxiety. You may be worried about your legacy you're leaving to your children, or the legacy in terms of pension when you retire. There may be all these other people's money issues that are bringing anxiety to you. Could be that you're getting an inheritance coming in, which is going to resolve, these issues with your health, or it could be, as I said, a medical payout. It's big money there, chunky money. Okay. So there may be resolution there for you in terms of that full moon. The reason I'm talking so much about your health, past and future, and how you negotiate that is one, because of it's Aquarius and it's about, it is about the past and future. It's also about status quo, your comfort with how things have always been, and that ideal of the eighth house, your of Neptune, sorry, that ideal of how you want to be in terms of health, hard work. Okay. And this full moon, as I said in the beginning, is also a long cycle, not just to do with what was seeded 2 weeks ago. It's what was seeded in February. Just look at my dates, the 9th of February 2024. Okay, so there's something seeded there in terms of your sixth house. Could have been then that you had health issues. It could be the beginning of when you had to work extremely hard, or issues with employees or your employers. This issue could have started then, and then there was a first quarter on the 9th of November, 9 months after that, where there would have been that challenge. That could have been the onset of the difficulties around work. So plug into that balance. Be creative. I see a beautiful creative tension there with Neptune and that kind of oceanic energy, and also with the reality. There's a kind of balancing off in that conjunction. They're very different, but there's similarities. So dig into that and be creative. If you're not good at accepting support, it may be that there are monies coming in from other people or offers of financial support there. um, so accept that. You may need to look into yourself and bring that balance in, accept that with a light heart. And the reason I'm saying that is because over in Cancer, the ruler of the moon, that's where it sits, you have the beautiful Venus and Jupiter in your 11th house. This is the house of benefactors, so people who can support you. So there could be group support, friends. It could be a benefactor who helps you launch something business wise in that trine, that work trine. But you need to be open to that. Okay, you need to be very open to the offer of support. You're Virgo, so it could be, you want to be very independent, and with Uranus up there, there will that be that independence. But in order to be independent, we need to balance in our relationships of give and take, and sometimes we need to receive, or we need to learn to receive. Bring that balance between the giving out and the receiving. Virgo's very good for serving others, but they need to open up more, to this beautiful Venus energy that Mars is sitting in. And there it is in your house of benefactors. Okay, so that chunky money there with that opposition, there could be balance bought because the benefactor offers you what you need to do to have the breakthrough in work, where the work you do, the hard work you do, is going to be, there's going to be breakthrough there, because of the benefactor bringing money, all that chunky money coming into you, fueling here the action of Mars in order to do your own thing and move away from any work that is hard work, overwork, that is damaging to you in terms of your physicality, whether that's your body, your mental health, or your emotional state of being. Okay, so that's what I have for you, Virgo. I hope that's helpful. It's a broad, a broad read, so take what resonates, if anything resonated in there for you. If you want a personal read, astrology read, then nip over to soulsymbols.co.uk, where you can book an astrology reading and tarot readings over there. And if any of it resonated with you, then pop a comment in the box below. Or if you resonate with what I said at the beginning, this kind of chaos and confusion that's in our skies, this like too much information, let me know below. If you haven't subscribed, if you enjoy my work, subscribe and like. Really, all those three things help the algorithm, and it gets out to more people. Okay then, Virgo. Bye-bye. Hello, Libra. So, this full moon is happening for you in your fifth house. What you planted in your 11th house at the Leo full moon has come to fruition. You're seeing your pregnancy. Whatever you were pregnant, you seeded there, it's going to be seen now. It's going to be seen. So you've got this Aquarius energy here. So I'm looking with this about the potentiality you have, which is is part of the Aquarius themes. Okay, the potentiality and the past, the future. What you can do up ahead. Okay, so something will be showing here, all right, that was seeded here in your 11th house. That's hopes and dreams there. So your ideals of how you want to shine, out in the world amongst your friends, groups. Yeah. So here we have in the fifth house, which is the fifth house of children. It's also about your creativity. It's the joy of Venus. So we're looking at arts, creativity, any kind of creativity and your potentiality. So maybe there's a hobby you have that you can use as a sideline to bring in more income, or that you can have a flow there within your fifth house. And that the face is changing there, that it's becoming more than just a hobby. It's something that you've shared with your friends and the groups you're involved with, and you're shining there, and you're able to make money from it. And the reason I'm saying there, you've got this beautiful conjunction forming up in your 10th house, which is the house of work, career, sorry, it's your public face. So there's a sense that amongst your friends, your hopes and wishes can be transmuted into this beautiful energy of it's fertile, it's expansive, it's benefic, it's good fortune there for you in your public face. Okay, so what are we looking that we need to balance? Okay, so as I said, this Mars is in this beautiful Kite. here. So it's interacting not only with Pluto, where the full moon is, and by the way, that's a transformation of that heart, that house, and the things and topics. So it could be entrepreneurship, your own business, your creativity, or with your children. But it is also here we have Uranus, that is the great disruptor. So that may be disrupting the way you see life, your beliefs, your values, your overarching philosophy on life. It can also mean higher learning. It may mean that you need to refine your skills and abilities. So higher learning here. Okay. And then obviously Mars is in opposition with Saturn that rules this moon. And Saturn will be building a foundation there with your relationships. Is in the house of relationships. This can be not only your marriage, your lover, your intimate relationships. It can also be your business relationships. And there's Neptune with her dreams and ideals and wishes and hopes and merging back into the oneness. You get the feel of it, but you've got this reality check with Saturn, but Saturn will be digging the foundations of your relationship. And the action of Mars here is more inward. Okay, the balance needs to come from you to that degree. Okay, Saturn will be giving you limitations. It will be giving you thresholds to either step over or stay behind. Okay, it can be about time, so the amount of time and skill, and thus, as I'm saying in this other part of this, it's sextile to Uranus, which may be pushing you into learning more or refining your skills in higher education, whatever it is you're doing. But this is very much this trine, this air trine is about Dharma, it's about your purpose. Okay, so we're looking at your purpose there, and that reality check here with Saturn. Okay, so that digging down, that balance, that measure, proportion, that excellence is going to be about you, who you are, what you're doing, and how you're doing it, how you're bringing about your purpose. And our purpose ultimately is soul growth. It's development. It's how we're growing, how we're moving into the things that make us shine. Out in that world of group, allows our wishes and our dreams to shine out in that group environment. Okay, but there's balance being called for here with Mars. As I said, it's opposite there. So it will be a balance between our ideals and the reality. And with you, it will be with yourself. So what is Mars? What action is needing to be taken? It could be you need breakthroughs in your beliefs about what is possible, your ideals. You may need to push deeper and push yourself further so that you can have that wonderful balance, not people please, not often with Libra, there's such a desire for that balance, for that harmony, that peace, that you can diminish yourself. Okay, Mars is not in the business of diminishing, it's in the business of cutting through. So it may be that you need to be more outspoken in your relationships, be they business or be they, interpersonal relationships with your nearest and dearest. But there's a sense where you need to shine. Okay, you need to shine. And your hopes and dreams need to shine. They need now to become really important to you because this is part of your overall purpose, part of your group. So I think there's going to be some challenges to how you see yourself in the world, how you see your abilities, your skills, how you see yourself reaching out into the world, how you can use your creativity, how you can bring that reflection of you into this fifth house, okay, into either entrepreneurship or in your creative abilities. And this can be with your children, this can be a new way of bringing balance and relating with your children. And the other thing we need to be looking at with your fifth house, that creativity, the entrepreneurship, your children, is not only have you got Pluto passing through there since 2023, and it'll be in there about, 20 plus years. This was also this area of your chart where you seeded the long-term cycle of this lunation in Aquarius. Okay, so I'm just looking at my notes. 9th of February 2024, there was a new moon here in this Aquarius sign. And then there was a first quarter moon in Aquarius 9 months later on the 9th of November 2024, of which this is the full moon 9 months after that. So it's a longer cycle. So any themes, Aquarian themes, of your potentiality, of what you find the status quo, what is comfortable with you and your ideal, especially in terms of what Mars is doing there. But it's in trine, so it's going to want to look at those ideals and look at your sense of comfort. Okay. So, and this will complete that cycle on the 9th of May 2026. Well, the last quarter, and then another 9 months on, there'll be another new moon seeding in that area of your chart. So it's a very long cycle. And in the home of the moon, which is your 10th house, you have your ruler, and it's in a conjunction, an applying conjunction this week to Jupiter, both benefic, both extremely helpful in the area of your career, your public life. So that is a really important factor there for you, Libra, in the long-term cycle. So if you check out those dates, have a look what you seeded there, what were your ideals, your hopes and dreams, what came as a challenge there, what do you need to bring balance to in terms of yourself, everything about you, okay, your identity, character, body, mind, emotional, what needs balance there, okay, a reality check in your relationship to yourself and others. And if you check those out, where there was challenge, what was seeded, what was a challenge, and what is showing up as kind of like the fruit of that cycle, you'll have a better idea of how to work with that in terms of your fifth house. Because there's going to be great transformation over a long period of time, and this is the beginning of it with Pluto for you. Okay, so I hope that was helpful, Libra. I hope that's helpful to you, and it's a general read. If you want a more personal read, hop on over to soulsymbols.co.uk. Calendars are open. You can book an astrology read there, or a tarot read if you want one. But if this resonated with you, or if there's something outside of that, because I've only given you a little slice of what may be themes and archetypal movements in our sky. So if there's something more that you want to add, a personal reflection of yours, then please drop it in the comments below. I'm always interested, so case may be, but drop a comment, like and subscribe if you did enjoy it. That helps the algorithm. Okay then, Libra, see you at the next video. Bye bye. Hello, Scorpio. So this full moon is happening for you in your fourth house, and that's home, family, roots. It's kind of the foundation of things for you. Can be to do with your ancestry, your lineage, your formative years. Also can be attached to your father. So what is reflecting here, what has come to full term, that full term pregnancy, what is showing up in that place of your home family roots was seeded here up in your 10th house, Leo. Okay, so something was seeded here that is to do with your public life, which is now being reflected back in your private life. That's a good way to see that axis. Okay, so your public life, anywhere where you need to be out in the open and not at home, outside of yourself rather than inside of yourself. So your career, your vocation, where you're interacting and relating publicly with others. But what you also have here is this opposition of Mercury to Pluto. And for me, this is saying to me in terms of home, family, and public, what is being illumined. It could actually be, because it's to do with indoctrination, propaganda, it could be the things that you learned from your formative years with your family, and particularly with your father. And because it's in the 10th house, it could be patterns of work, things that ways that you do things in a public manner that is informed by the father or by your roots, your family, who you were born into. So what we are looking at here is that relationship between work and home, outer public and inner personal. Okay. So what was seeded there is now showing up in that private space for you. And you have got Pluto, I said Pluto, but Pluto is doing a huge work of transformation in your fourth house. Absolutely it is. And it's been doing it since 2023. And we continue to do it for over 20 years. We also are mentioned here is this longer lunation cycle was seeded, the new moon in Aquarius in that long cycle was seeded on the 9th of February 2024. So look back to February 2024. What were you seeding in terms of your home, your family, your roots? Look at that. Because of this huge transformation and because of that long cycle, there is a long-term thing being seeded here. Okay, and it would have come up for some challenge, some difficulty, like at the first quarter, just like the seed, the sapling coming through the soil and the stones pushing its way through. So there could have been some challenges around your home and your family and your inner self, your foundations. So it could have been a bit of difficulty and challenge, and that would have been the 9th of November 2024, so 9 months after that seeding. And now we have the fruition, we have the evidence of what that was. So if you follow that pattern back, if there's nothing obvious for you in the 2 weeks, sometimes those longer patterns can show up a big cycle where a lot of work and transformation has gone on there. And Pluto was there at 0 degrees, I believe, when that new moon was seeded back in February 2024. It's over 18 months ago, I believe. So that is your story of what's lunating there. But we also have this, the ruler of your sign is Mars, and that is sitting in your 12th house. Okay, so that's quite a hidden house. It's often things to do with your subconscious, and it's trine in Pluto. So there's a kind of conversation going on between Pluto, who transforms, death and rebirth, and Mars, who is that young, active. It can cut and separate, and there can be conflict and aggression there. This is the house of hidden enemies, and that hidden enemy can often be ourselves. So we can have these ways of thinking, this kind of what we learned as a child that is almost self-sabotaging. Your air trine is in what's called the moksha houses. So that is spiritual liberation, it's freedom, it's breaking free, and Uranus is part of that in the 8th house, which can be to do with death, fear, anxiety, but also karmic debts there as well as actual debts. So there's something in that pattern, that unseen pattern, that Mars is trying to balance, and we have in the sixth house Saturn bringing a dose of reality. So that could be your hard work, that it's to do with hard work, it's to do with employees, and it's to do with health. So there could be something that Mars is bringing out from what is hidden into the outside that is connected with your home family roots. This can be the place, as I said, hidden. It can be secrets that come out. This can be to do with the father, your fourth house. There may be secrets that are coming out that are to do with your father that are difficult, they're hard work to deal with. Doesn't necessarily mean that, but it's one of the significations of it, okay? And in this long-term cycle, you can track that back to that February 2024, if that's the case for you. But it can also be something as simple as your Mars is working away there to uncover the reality of hidden subconscious patterns about how to work, how to balance your home and your family, how you relate to your work and your private life, your public face and your private life. So there could be some things coming into balance here, which Saturn is materializing. And this could be to do with your ideals. So the ideals about your health and your work, maybe you need to hire your ideals about your health and your work. Maybe you need to have a reality check on those ideals. It can work any way. Your dreams, your hopes, your wishes, and working hard for them could be showing some real kind of fruit here in your home life. You could be having an increase of money because you have worked hard, and that could be benefiting your family. It could be paying off the bills, supporting with your rent, your mortgage. Yes. But we also have up here, which is kind of like I was talking about the chaos or confusion or the massive amounts of information that is coming in this air trine, So you've got a bit of respite here. The ruler of this full moon is the moon, which resides in its temple up here in the ninth. Okay, so the ninth is hosting Jupiter and Venus, and they're in conjunction. They're going to continue to apply. Venus will move towards Jupiter and they'll have an exact conjunction, I think, on the 11th or 12th. And then you wait till it's 3 degrees out. So you got this week it's going to be a feature. Okay. Now, this is, Cancer is about care, protection, nurture. So it's whatever you're nurturing there. And the ninth house can be about faith, belief, philosophy, higher learning. So you may be nurturing something there. You may be working towards something there that is at some point going to benefit your inner life. So you may be learning something like it's the house of astrology, it's esoteric knowledge. It's kind of that wisdom theme. And that could be, bringing you into something very new. It could be something you're doing within your home, but it could be something that is, you're going to shine in and be able to kind of bring into your work life, your public life. You can become public. Maybe that, this increase in your knowledge, this beautiful aspect is a wonderful time if you've been moving and had kind of fertile transit with Jupiter there for some time, since June, I think. Yeah, mid-June, I think it ingressed there. I haven't got the dates on me, sorry. But it could be a kind of fertility that is manifesting there, and you could decide that you're going to start up something at home, groups at home, benefiting other people with your knowledge, with your wisdom. That could be your family direct, but it could also be using your home to pass on that wisdom, that knowledge. This would be a good week if that resonates with you to do it because of that conjunction up there. Could be like you're launching a YouTube or a blog, writing a book, whatever it is in your home, but this will be very beneficial if it's to do with that higher learning. Doesn't just have to be esoteric, mystical, or spiritual, but it could just be literally higher learning. So that is very good for this week. So if you need to work on that, or you need to set that up, or you're thinking about those types of things at home, then go for it right now. It's a good time to do that. So that is what I have for you, Scorpio. I hope that was helpful. Um, it's a general read, so if you want a more personal read, which will include how your planets are set out in your chart, then pop on over to soulsymbols.co.uk and book a reading there. I do both astrology and tarot reads, including lunation readings, lunation cycle readings. And if any of it resonated with you, or you resonate with anything I said about the aspects and the kind of overload of information, the confusion that's going on in our busy sky at the moment, yeah, drop a comment below because I'd love to know. Okay, so drop a comment. It'd be really good to hear from you. And if you haven't already and you enjoy my work, subscribe and push the like button. It helps with this algorithm thingy, and it'll get it out to more people. Okay, that's what I have. Hello, Sagittarius. So this full moon for you is happening in your third house, and it is the result of a seed that was planted here up in your ninth house. This ninth house is called the joy of the sun. So you have the sun sitting in its joy up there in Leo, with that kingly archetype, that sense of sovereignty, authority, power to a degree, strength, loyalty, all those sorts of things that are coming through with the Leo sun there. And it is fully illumined now. And this is in your third house, Aquarius. It's the house of the goddess, and the moon is in her joy. She's in her joy here. So you have the sun in its joy and the moon in its joy. So it's a beautiful combination for you, Sagittarius. But the third house is about the ebb and flow of your daily life. So your neighbours, your near relatives, siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles. So it's about how your ebb and flow of the day is there, the relationships you have with the people there, what's going on in your daily life. And then this house up here, the ninth house, Leo, not only is it the joy of the sun, it's the house of God, it's also about higher learning, higher wisdom, esoteric knowledge, that type of thing, higher learning. Whereas this is about your formative learning, early learning. So we have the juxtaposition of those. And also sitting in here, we have Pluto, which has been there since 2023 and will continue to transit through your third house. And it's about death and rebirth. So it tends to dig up subconscious, unconscious, material and bring it to the surface. So this could be relating to your environment and to, family that are not your root family, your parents, other family and neighbours. So that would be transiting for almost 22 years, and it is sitting in opposition to Mercury there. Okay, so Mercury and Pluto together can be about indoctrination. It can be about things that were, subtly implanted in us. And that can be like a program for us. So what we learn in our childhood can actually end up not being what we have learned and accepted as our truth, but kind of put in there. And that in our early life, that's primarily from our family, and it's from our schools, our teachers, and our culture, or our faith, our beliefs with the ninth house. You know, might have been raised in a particular religion, but this with Pluto is going to get you to see what are truly your beliefs. You know, the sun, what is true to you. You are Sagittarius, which is marked through truth seeking. Okay, so what, you know, what are your beliefs? It's your life force, your vitality, where you shine is your sun. Okay, so it's about your beliefs. Something was seeded there that has come to fruition here, and it could be the unseating, you know, the uncovering by Pluto of beliefs that you've got that you're trying to shed. You may have seeded that there, you know, you may have had a plan to work on those things, the things that kind of a subconscious programming into, you know, you've had that kind of conflict, that opposition with that, what you learned as a child to what you believe now. And you're working through that, you're manifesting that, you're embodying your own truth. So Pluto will rebirth that truth. It's a long process and it can be about many topics, given the third house. But I'm thinking more family because of the siblings there. And then also part of this trine, we have, you know, this kite shape, we have Mars opposite Saturn in your 11th and 5th house. So Saturn and Neptune will be bringing kind of your ideals. We talked about ideals, and this is pretty significant for your ninth house too. But your ideals, you know, what are your ideals? What is your ideal image up here? What image are you working towards that is yours, that belongs to you, not what was imprinted on you by your culture, religion, family, teachers? Yeah. So this Neptune is sat there with Saturn opposite Mars, and Saturn will be bringing the reality of that. And it's in your 5th house. It's the 5th house of children, entrepreneurship, creativity, pleasure. Your air trine is in what's called, it's in your 7th, 11th, and 3rd. And it's about camera, it's about pleasure, your desires. You know, what brings you pleasure, everything to do with pleasure. Okay. So Mars, excuse me, is seeking this balance. This is in, you know, it's in Libra, it's in your 11th house. And again, that's hopes and wishes. So it's about you, what you want, you know, what are your dreams, what are your ideals? And that's looking to balance out. So it could be balancing that, you know, working with Pluto at this full moon to balance that, to bring something very visual to you, which is really obvious that you need to rebalance and work on. Okay, so we have that going on, and it will probably come through relationship because the other part of the trine is in your 7th house and it's Uranus, the great awakener. Okay, so you've got death and rebirth here, and the kind of subterranean Pluto unearthing stuff to do with your early education, and it is working out in relationship. And Uranus is the great disruptor. It does disrupt things, and it disrupts them to give us this sense of freedom and independence in our relationships. So you may be finding at this full moon where you are taking on your own sense of sovereignty and authority. It is clashing with people around you. It is clashing with your kind of extended family, that there is a friction that Mars will bring, a friction. Mars brings a sword. For me, Mars cuts things in two, and you can see what is this and what is that. And it's not choosing between that, it's bringing those things into balance, okay? So the other thing about Aquarius is this long-term cycle, okay? So not only have you had Pluto in there since 2023, and it'll be in there 20 plus years, you had a new moon in Aquarius on the 9th of February 2024, and something was seeded there in the 3rd house, of which this is now a full moon. Now, if you want to track it, go 9 months from February and you get to the 9th of November 2024, and there would have been some challenge there. So within your neighbourhood, your daily life, your close relatives, siblings, there could have been disruption, challenge there, just like the seed coming out of the earth, and pushing through, facing the winds, being blown about. There's that sense of challenge there. It's a square. So if you look to November, you may see that challenge. It may help you look back at what was seeded there 9 months before. And now we have the full moon. It's obvious. So if it's not obvious to you, you may not be able to remember and track it that way. Okay. But that is up for rebirth. That is up for transformation with Pluto here, or unearthing. Okay. So we are looking at Mars actively bringing about balance. So that sense of proportion, measure, just rightness and a kind of excellence in that 11th house. So it will be looking to balance your hopes, your wishes, your dreams, okay, your ideals of what you want. Also, with this moon, it rules your 8th house, and this is your kind of reprieve here. This is the calm in this busy sky full of information and maybe confusion and chaos. This is your reprieve. This is happening now and will continue to happen. This conjunction between Venus and Jupiter, which is your ruling planet, so very important to you. And it is going to bring, Venus is about relationships, so it's going to bring this kind of fertility, this harmony, this balance, this expansion, just all those beautiful creative energies here in your 8th house. Now, your 8th house is to do with karmic debts, so it may be the closing off of karmic debts. It may be the closing off of debts per se, which may affect your neighbourhood. Maybe that you are have been in debt and it has caused you 8th house anxiety, fears, worry, sleepless nights. So there's a closing off. With this in the sky, it's looking like it's going to close off for you here. If not completely, you can work towards that, and this is a good week to do that in. If you have any financial debts, if you're owing, it's other people's money. So if you're owing money to anyone, this is a good week to sort that out for you, Sagittarius. But it can be the end of karmic cycles. And, this can be to do with these Aquarian issues and these 3rd house issues. Um, So, what has been past doesn't have to be the future. You can have that creativity here. Be creative with your ideals and bringing that into the reality, Saturn. And you can change those things here, okay? It is about progress. It is about innovation, Aquarius, okay? Um, so where you may have felt isolated in your fears and your worries, this week is going to be a beautiful time to deal with them. Look them square in the face, deal with them. Or it could be that that's just coming to an end. It could also be because your 8th house, it has to do with inheritance, legacy, wills. It's big money. So there could be some money coming in there because here we have Mars in the 11th house of the benefactor, the person's people who can support you. So there could be an end or a beginning to support there for you in your 8th house, bringing in money, which is going to bring some kind of sense of support for your income, your finances, with whatever these dreams, these ideals that you're trying to bring into fruition. So that is your 11th and 5th house there. So, this air trine for you, as I said, it's in the house of pleasure. You know, there's breakthrough, there's transformation, there's a sense of freedom and independence in the way you relate. how you relate, particularly to those very close to you, but also with business, which could have, sextile to this Saturn and Neptune here. So these ideals you have, maybe about entrepreneurship, are going to have breakthroughs here in terms of relationships. So that could be on your social media. There could be a big breakthrough there, how you're relating to your audience. Okay. So that is what I have for you, Sagittarius. I hope that was helpful. It is a general read, so take what resonated with you there, if anything. I'm sure something in that resonated with you. But if you want a personal reading, go on over to soulsymbols.co.uk and you can book an astrology read there, or you can book a tarot read. Go and have a look. There's lots of different types of reading I do there. And if something resonated with you, please drop a comment in the box below. It's lovely to hear from people. It's nice to hear that the work I do is helpful to you in some way. And if you haven't already subscribed and you like the work, please subscribe and please like. That will help with the algorithm. Okay, Sagittarius, bye-bye. Hello, Capricorn. So this full moon in Aquarius is happening for you here in your second house. So this is the house of income, money, resources, the things you own. It can be to do with your values also. And it is the fruition, the show, the illumination, the reflection of the seeds that you planted 2 weeks ago in Leo, which is in your eighth house. This is the house of other people's money. So it could be to do with your partner's money, could be to do with inheritance money, legacy wills, that type of thing. Okay, so we have this going on across this axis. Okay, now this Grand Trine I talked about in the middle is happening in what is called, the work you were born to do. Okay, it's your second house of finances, your sixth house of hard work, and your 10th house of career. And your public image. Okay, and the work you're born to do is not always monetary. It's not always monetized. It can be the work you're born to do just in terms of the work you need to do on yourself. It can be to do with finances and your career, your vocation, maybe your career that you're paid for. Okay, so we have Pluto here in your second house. So Pluto is traveling through your second house for the next 23 years. 23, 22, it's 20 plus, put it that way. Moved in here in 2023. So it's been doing a lot of work for the past couple of years. It's in retrograde at the moment, but that would be continuing to do the work. He's Lord of the underworld. He tends to dig up and unearth the things that are hidden. So it can be our attitudes towards money, and our resources, what we own, what we have. Okay, so it's all through for 20 years that work's going to be done. So this is the beginning, 2 years of the beginning of that work, okay, for you. But also with Pluto, it is opposite Mercury. Okay, so this can be to do with indoctrination, propaganda. Okay, so it can be the views that are imprinted in us often early in life from our families, from society, from our religions, our cultures. But it can be something that we're not operating out of. So here we will be looking, because we spoke about Mars being in that opposition to Saturn in this kite shape. Okay, so that is driving a change to here. And this is your house, this is your career, this is your house of home, family, and the foundation of things. So this is why I'm talking about this. It may be that Pluto is bringing a rebirth in your attitudes towards money, your relationship towards money. Mars may be pulling that balance there, balancing the scales, so that you're not operating out of something that has been indoctrinated into you. And it can be from society. In the West, we live in a society that says work hard, progress, nothing wrong with that. But, you know, it's that to the detriment of our personal lives. Often we have to work too hard there. And you have in this Grand Trine Uranus here, and that is breakthrough, breakout, sudden change. It's the Great Awakener, and that's in another of your working houses, what you're born to do. And it's about hard work, but this can be pushing you towards freedom and independence in your work life here. So it is definitely to do with attitudes towards money, the change of that. And I'm saying that because this full moon is not just what was seeded in Leo. Okay, it's also about a long-term cycle I talked about in the beginning. So the new moon in Aquarius, near to the degrees this full moon is at, was on the 9th of February 2024. So something was seeded there in terms of your finances, your income. You may have been looking to increase it. You may have been looking in terms of, your position here, getting out pension funds, looking at yours and your partner's money, other people's money here, and how you can provide for your future, because the moon is rules Cancer. That's in your 7th house, and that is about protection. That is about nurture, protection, care, often about the home and the body. So we've got a lot of breakthroughs, transformation, breakthrough, and that balance from Mars, that inward balance. And this will be about our views when we're home. So this could be, you have Saturn here, could be to do with your father, the ideals that your family had. When I was talking about that indoctrination, often we take the ideals of our family. If we had poverty when we were children, in this 4th house, our roots, our legacy, we often carry that legacy, and we haven't got the ideal of, I can make that money, I can be creative, I can bring in the money that's needed to survive, to be safe, to have a roof over my head. Okay. And this may have come from your father, it's the house of the father. Okay. So these are up to be brought into balance here. Okay. It's your public career, vocation, the work you're born to do. Okay. So these could be up for transformation, getting that freedom there and breaking through any mental patterns that are kind of subconscious. So be open to that at this full moon. And as I said, it's part of a bigger pattern, and that will culminate in the last quarter in May 2026. So we're not just looking about this short pattern, we're also looking about the larger cycle, lunation cycle that was seeded 18 months ago. So with Aquarius, we're looking at past, and we're looking at the future. We're looking at the status quo. We may be very comfortable in what we're doing, but we're being pushed too hard. It's causing us worry. This can be about anxiety, but that anxiety will come through that lack of balance. And in this case, pushing on to inner balance. It will be our inner balance, our inner, our root views, what's at the foundation of us, okay? As I said, often from the family. So be open to all that. And what is beautiful about this, in your 7th house, you have this, all for this week, the Jupiter and Venus conjunction, 2 benefics. This is about relationship. It's in your relationship house. So it may be that you have that change of relationship to how you see your money and others' money. It might be your family's money, your partner's money. There may be a large shift there, but it's also a good week. A good week. It's also a good week to work on that. Okay. to look at those issues, to look at those relationship issues. It may also bring in a relationship that is very beneficial to you, that gives you insight um, to your resources, your incomes. It may give you a lead. It may help you to see how you can start a business from home, and take the pressure off you, break through, have the independence. This house is also about employees. If you're an employee and you're not liking your work in the 10th, and you're not, the income is not worth the stress, the anxiety you're feeling here. Maybe that someone that you're in relationship to can help you in terms of working out a way that you can go for the work that you're born to do, which may not be the work you're being paid for. So Mars will be pushing for a balance there. It may be that you move more out of the public and more into your home space for that work, or vice versa. Okay, Capricorn, that is what I have for you. I hope that was helpful. It's a broad reading. So if you want a personal reading, pop along to soulsymbols.co.uk and you can book an astrology reading there. I also do tarot readings, oracle readings. Just go have a look. There's a lot going on over there that's on offer. And also, if any of this resonated with you, or you resonate with that sense of, chaos and too much information and what's going on outside of you, drop a comment. Just love to hear from people and whether this is resonating with you and helpful to you. And if you haven't already, if you like the channel, you like my work, subscribe and press the like button, because that's also helpful for the algorithm and gets it out there to more people, and we can build a nice community. I'm thinking Aquarius, it's all about community, isn't it? Okay, then, that's what I have for you, Capricorn. Bye bye. Hello, Aquarius. So, this full moon is happening for you in your first house. And the first thing I notice is you have Pluto there, which moved in 2023. So you have got massive transformation coming to you. It's kind of the death and rebirth transformation that Pluto brings. So this is a big transformation to yourself, everything about you. So this full moon is what was seeded at the Leo new moon, and that's in your seventh house. So that's relationships, particularly with marriage relationships, lovers, intimate relationships, but also relationships business wise, friendships, etc. So this full moon is reflecting the heart of Leo, that strength, courage, that kingly energy, um, the sense of authority, sovereignty, um, vitality, your life force. This is what it's reflecting here in your first house. So it's reflecting you and what was seeded there. And because it's relationships, it may be that you're seeding something new. Maybe you've started a new relationship. Maybe you're looking for a close relationship there. Or maybe there's been like major adjustments given Pluto's here to yourself and how you're relating with others, particularly those close to you. And then we have opposite Pluto, we have Mercury. So, as I said in the other readings, this in terms of what I'm trying to focus on here is about indoctrination. It can be about propaganda. So it can be your Pluto is unearthing how you were taught in your early life to see relationships through your relationships with your parents or caregivers or within your family unit. but also it's often comes from school, from teaching. So it could be that transformation there, and it could be illumine what you were trying to change there, and have your sovereignty, your boundaries, your voice heard, your wishes, your ideals. Maybe that you're working on your ideals of how relationship should be. And with the moon here in Aquarius in your sign, um, this is about being able to see emotions intellectually, subjectively to a degree, where you can analyze things, where you can look at things in that manner. And also, this full moon is not just, 2 weeks ago what was seeded there. I talked in the when I was looking at the overall aspects, that this is also part of a longer lunation cycle, which started on the 9th of February 2024. So if you go back there, you can have a look at what you seeded in yourself at that new moon. And then we had the first quarter in November, 9th of November 2024. So there would have been a challenge there, a challenge to you, a challenge to your perceptions, a challenge emotionally, or a challenge physically in terms of you. And with Pluto there, it's very likely, because that is unearthing and death and rebirth of yourself, basically. So that will be your subconscious and your sense of identity that is changing there. So this full moon is a culmination of that long cycle new moon in Aquarius back in February 2024. So track that back, and the last quarter will be on the 9th of August 2026. So a year from now, we've got another year of this before there's that, or just under a year before sorry, not August, May, 9th of May 2026, in another 9 months. And that will be the kind of harvest, and you'll know exactly where you are and the adjustments you have to make over the next 9 months to bring about um, that full cycle of the lunation. And that will be supported by Pluto. So if you can't see what was seeded and what's being illuminated at the Leo new moon, that the longer cycle will give you a longer picture, a more drawn out picture. And it will be about you. It will be about your identity, your character, your soul spirit there. You in the world, you in relationship to other people. And the other thing we have going on here, not only do you have Pluto, we have this Grand Trine, okay? And it's in your first house with Pluto, your fifth house with Uranus, and your ninth house with Mars. Now, this is the house of Dharma. It's the purpose, your path, what you're here for. Who am I? What am I doing here? Type questions. Okay, and Mars is spearheading this in the Kite. There's a minor trine there. There's that Grand Air Trine and the minor trine there. So Mars is spearheading that. That's in your ninth house. So that's the house of higher learning. It's about your beliefs, your belief system. So what I said about Mercury and Pluto and indoctrination, Mars could be bringing balance to that. That may already be uncovered for you. It may be obvious at this full moon, both the long cycle and the short cycle. And Mars would be seeking to bring balance there. So it's that sense of measure and proportion in your beliefs, excellence, the just rightness. What is right for you? How do you shine that sovereignty and authority and life force through, in the house of yourself? How are you reflecting that? So there'll be questions around your beliefs, around your faith. It's also the house of, it's called the joy of the sun. It's the house of God. And Mars is pushing for balance there. So that could also be about your relationship to the divine, your spiritual path, the way you relate to your soul, that shadow work, that bringing through the authentic version of yourself that you are, your soul speaking, your soul shining, your authentic self shining, okay, as you move along your path of Dharma. And then Mars is sitting in opposition with Saturn, who is the ruler, your first house ruler, and the ruler of this full moon. Okay, so Mars is going to bring a reality check, and because it's in the third house, it is about what you learned as a child. It's your early education, so that, your family, your teachers. So, and it is um, conjunct Neptune. And Neptune is your dreams, your wishes, your ideals, and it's trine, it's textile in this kite, the tip of the kite, it's textile. So there's a real sense of a reality check in terms of, it's good to have our hopes, wishes, and dreams, to have our ideal self shining out there. But there's also a reality check, because sometimes the ideal is what we should be aiming for. But, Saturn can be showing you the limitations of yourself, limitations in terms of time, because we all have a set amount of time here. We're born and we die. Pluto's to do with that, very much to do with that sense of birth, rebirth, death, that cycle of life. But Saturn will bring in that reality to that and how you can shine there. But the ideal that you aim for, you know, Saturn may be uncovering those things that need to be brought into balance. You may have an ideal of how you want to express in the world, of how you want to move in your purpose, and that is always available to do. But Saturn may be saying, but you haven't got this skill, you haven't got this ability, or you have, and you need to nurture it. And this is up in that ninth house, your belief in yourself. Okay, so what you've been gifted with, what you've been endowed with, and also higher learning, what you need to skill up on to realize those dreams, those ideals, and how you want to shine in the world, how you um, gain your meaning from what it is to be a person in this world. It can also be to do with that meaning. And then in your fifth house, the other part of the air trine, you've got Uranus, and Uranus is the great awakener. And this is trine to the Pluto and whole house Aquarius. So it's trine you. So you're being awakened, okay? You may be disrupted in many ways, with these big fellas sitting there. You may be disrupted. But go back to that Mars for the inner work, for the action, which is directed inwardly, and is going to release that beautiful balance between Saturn and Neptune in your third. The other thing that is worth looking at, and it's kind of like the respite from all this energetics and big transits and this sacred geometry in the air. It's bringing far too much information and lots of chaos globally as well as individually. We're just the microcosm of the macrocosm in that sense. But this is beautiful respite, and it's in Cancer in your sixth house. This is the house of hard work, health. So if you've had health issues, your first house is to do with the body, the moon is to do with the body. There may be either insight, Pluto may be bringing up from the subconscious ways that, you need to improve on to bring better health, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. So it's kind of lending that supporting energy there in your sixth house, and that'll be there all week. So if there are issues that are being illumined here, then just work on them. Okay, work on them this week. Set a plan. Aquarius you're good on planning. You see the future. So look at those look at whatever comes up and make that plan with the support of those two benefic planets. And also in terms of your relationship with that Leo new moon that you seeded there, you know, Venus is about relationships. Jupiter is about expansion, for fertility, it's generosity, it's beautiful energy here. So dig into that energy if you're finding a kind of chaos within yourself or too much information, too much download, of all that air energy. Okay, so that is what I have for you, Aquarius. I hope it was helpful. It is a general reading. If you want a personal reading, pop along to soulsymbols.co.uk. I do astrology readings, lunation readings, tarot and oracle. Have a look, and you can book straight from the site there. And also, if anything resonated with you, if you've got any contribution to make about this energy that's surrounding us all, that is, a bit overloading, overwhelming, too much information and chaos, please drop a comment below in the box, and if you enjoy it, then subscribe and like. It really helps the algorithm. Okay, Aquarius, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye. Hello, Pisces. So, this full moon is happening for you in your 12th house. And co-present on this full moon is Pluto, which entered your 12th house in 2023. So it's been beavering away for a couple of years there. Now this house is the hidden house. It can be to do with what's hidden within you, your shadow, your subconscious. It can be to do with hidden enemies. It can be, and that can be ourself via self-sabotage. So Pluto is there to rebirth. It has a lot more connotations, but I want to talk about those particular things. But Pluto will work in your 12th house to unearth subconscious material. Okay, so you may be having unconscious material that's not readily available to you, that's hidden. You may be having at this time a revelation, a revealing, an illumination, and it will be illumined from what was seeded here in Leo in your 6th house. Okay, so that's about your hard work. And this would typically be in these two houses, the hard work in terms of your inner work. And I'm saying that because we have the air trine in what's called your moksha house. So we have Pluto in Aquarius in your 12th. We have Uranus in Gemini in your 4th. And we have Mars heading this kite shape in Libra in your 8th, and it's the moksha house, which is about spiritual liberation. It's about liberating the soul from the material, in a sense. It's about liberation, freedom spiritually. So this will probably be illumining something that is very hidden. And the 6th house, Leo, this is about hard work. It's about your health. So it could be that being illumined. You might have set intentions there in your 6th house to work hard. That's on something you're working on, or if you're working on yourself, on your inner work, and you've set intentions there, and you've had major illumination there. Also, I've said it with all of them, but I think it is really important, extremely important for Pisces. We have Mercury in the 6th, opposite Pluto, okay, and it's about to stay. So what we have here is a feel of it. It can have the themes of that opposition, can have the themes of indoctrination, propaganda. Okay, so it's often things that were put within us in our early life. So this could be, the moon is about the body. That sixth house is about health and hard work, employees. But in terms of the body, this could be a health issue. It could be something that we have been indoctrinated with. It could be that we have an illness in the family, and in the 12th house, this can be mental health. But because the moon's there, it can also be about your body, physical health. So we could have this feeling that we are going to end up with some type of illness or other because it's in our family, and that's what happens. You know, we may have been told when we were children that's what happens. Society, science could have taught us what happens, but this is about sovereignty. The sun, what's seeded here is a sovereignty. It's a sense of authority, self-control, vitality, life force. So we seeded something here, and we have the will to change those things. We have the ability to change those things in a very physical way. So if we set an intention here, you know, we may have found it difficult to work on ourselves, work on our bodies, our vitality, our health, our diets, whatever, exercise, mental health, whatever it is. And we may have had difficulty. Well, that could be because there are these patterns, Pluto, Mercury, that are in us that need overcoming. So this could be illumination of those patterns for us. The other thing that we need to take into consideration with this full moon is, as I said at the beginning, it's not just this 2 week pattern from what we seeded to now. It's also about what we seeded in February 2024 when there was a new moon in your 12th house. Okay, so something was being seeded there, and something has been working out in that 12th house, and you would have found struggle with that on the 9th of November 2024, or around November 2024. And Pluto was also there. So Pluto could have been unearthing patterns, unconscious patterns, hidden patterns in us, um, you know, that we have worked with. We could have been doing a lot of shadow work since 2023, and definitely we may have put an intention in to face our shadow, to face the things, the hidden things that we, you know, find difficult to face. And there's an illumination of that in that big cycle. Okay, it's the full moon, it's the pregnancy, what you started, what you had challenge with in November 2024 is now illumined. So this is beautiful. And I am thinking, because of this air trine, we have Pluto trine Uranus in our 4th house. So it is likely this is the house of home, family, roots, what's at the foundation, our inner life, okay? So it's likely there has been, it's a great awakener, is Uranus, and it brings sudden change, sudden unexpected change. So we could have had family circumstances or circumstances with our home or with our inner life that was sudden and unexpected, and have worked with that flow of energy between Pluto and Uranus to unearth something that's up for, you know, it's illumined in this full moon, long cycle and short cycle, and it's up for us to work on if it becomes visible. So this could be to do with family matters. There could have been a breakdown, or it's very kind of disruptive. So it's going to be a disruption, but that is to awaken us, and it is to free us up, Pisces. Okay, so face that, whatever it is, and face it with your integrity. The new moon in Leo, you know, face it with that sense of you are sovereign, you have authority. So if hidden things have arisen within your family that were unexpected, that have shocked your system, that have caused any kind of disruption, turmoil at home within your family or your inner life, work with that, because that's up for healing. Could be karmic stuff, the roots, it could be ancestral stuff that has come up, that is there to be resolved, to be healed, to be transmuted there, Pisces. And then at the head of this kite, and the last part of the trine is Mars in Libra. So, as I said, this Mars in Libra is looking for justice, harmony, balance, peace. Um, it's that Ma'at energy, the Egyptian goddess who in the underworld, here we go with the underworld again, weighed your heart against a feather. Okay, she's looking for balance there. So that lightness of heart, that balance, if we're looking at our inner work, comes when things are illumined. We face shadow, we face unresolved issues, hidden issues that have come up maybe from our family, from our early life. We face them full on and we work with them, transmute them, heal them. So this is happening in your eighth house, and that's often got to do with anxiety, fears. It is to do with karmic debt as well as, um, literal debt. But there's that facing of that, and it is sitting opposite in uh, Aries, opposite Saturn, and Saturn is it's a kind of reality check for you. Saturn is in your second house of money, income, resources. Okay, so there could have been an upset within family in your home, a disruption from Uranus. Um, you know, which has to do with your money, with your income. So Saturn will give you support to be real about that. You may have ideals in terms of what you want to do about that. Things that you're aiming for, where Saturn will show you your limitations, your boundaries, but also will help you contemplate those issues. And this is in sextile, so again, a flow to Pluto. It could be your relationship with money, beliefs that you've got about your money, indoctrinated beliefs that Pluto, Mercury, that you need to transform. You need to have that rebirthed so that you feel capable of being an independent soul. Okay. And this, it's always with the moksha houses, with that spiritual freedom and independence. It's often comes through the material, the very solid things. Okay. So be open for that and be open for that balance to be brought back. But it's going to come through your relationship to fear and anxiety. Mars, looking for the balance on that fear and anxiety, and through your resources, and your resource is actually you as well, so you can be creative and resourceful. And I say creative because over there in your fifth house, which is the ruler of the moon, of this full moon, is Jupiter and Venus. Beautiful energy coming in a conjunction. They are conjunct now by degree, but will be conjunct, I think, on the 11th, and it will be 3 degrees before Venus separates from Jupiter. And Venus is very much to do with relationships, with love, harmony, balance. Okay. She rules where Mars is, so she is going to support Mars in that. Even though there's kind of a whole sign square there may be some difficulty, some challenge, but this is going to be supportive and it's going to be expansive, fertile, and creative, extremely creative. Venus is, the creatrix, isn't she? So she is, she will lend you the support, and that will be an expansive support with Venus there and a fertile support over there in your fifth house. If the issues do involve your children, the family, and your children, there are creative resolutions available to you this week. So if you need to bring some balance back there within your family, get into your self resources, how you are resourced, your wisdom, your knowledge, your skills, your ability. And there can be some beautiful results there with your children, with your creativity. It's the house of good fortune and the temple of the moon. Okay. So that's what I have for you, Pisces. I hope that is helpful. And it's a general reading because it's for all Pisces. Obviously, your individual chart yields much more specific information. So if you want a reading, astrology reading, pop over to soulsymbols.co.uk where you can book an astrology reading, a tarot reading, an oracle reading, a shadow work reading. That might be a good one, given it's all in you got Pluto in your 12th house, soul work, soul path, and shadow work. Pop on over there, have a look, and book a reading. The calendar's open. And if any of it resonated with you, Pisces, put a message below. Let me know how it resonated. Or just say hello down there, whatever. And if you enjoyed it, like and subscribe. It's going to help grow the channel and get it out to more people. And it'll also help me. It will help me. Okay then, Pisces, that is all I have for you. Thank you. Bye-bye.